There isn't one fixed way to teach. And as you mature in your teaching career or become more experienced teaching ESL, you'll figure out that there are a lot of ways you can combine different methods in order to make your class really interesting. When we talk about interactive teaching, what we are saying is that you need to make your lesson interesting enough that your students will want to engage in the lesson. There are a couple of ways you can do that. One of them is the use of TPR. The other is the use of chants. TPR we're going to talk about very soon. Chants basically are like a vocal version of TPR. Then we have playing games. You all know what games are. You can play a whole lot of games with flashcards. Playing games is very essential for particularly for students who are really young. Now we also have using certain resources such as flashcards, such as PPTs, such as videos for teaching your lesson. Why exactly do we want to do interactive teaching? Why do we want to use this method, this idea for teaching in a class? If you remember when we talked about classroom control strategies, we said one of the greatest way to have your students bring them under control, have them participate, is to make the lesson interesting. So ideally, the goal for interactive teaching is to solicit participation and increase interest in the lesson. When we do interactive teaching, all we are trying to do is to make sure that the kids are interested in the lesson. And in thinking about interactive teaching, what you need to think about is back and forth. So as much as there's no one way to teach interactively, and you can use TPRs and chants and whatever, you need to think about it this way. You need to think about it as something that's back and forth, not just the teacher teaching or just the teacher doing their own thing. So, interactive teaching is how to engage your students in the way that they actually have their own take or they actually have their own input into the lesson. So, for instance, when you're teaching with TPRs, you say something, the kids say something back. When you're playing games, you give them something to do. They interact with the flashcards. They do something. So, basically, interactive teaching we are saying is something that is back and forth. You do something, the kids do something. You do something, the students do something. And this is really essential. You should consider this to be at least maybe 50 to 70% of your lesson, because especially for young learners, this is very essential. And you can combine multiple strategies in a single lesson. For instance, in a single lesson, you can have TPRs, you can have chants, you can play games, you can use flashcards and PPTs and videos. And usually in a single lesson, you'd find that these things, you use majority of them in one lesson. Now let's go on and let's talk about TPR in particular. Why and what is TPR? Why do we need it at all? So TPR stands basically for total physical response. And if you're someone who teaches kids, you probably do this already. Especially kids who are starting to learn the language, you need to understand that if you want to kind of isolate the native language and get them to do more, understand things in perspective, you're gonna have to use TPR. So for instance, when I go into a new class, the kids are new, the students are new, and I start off by trying to get them to stand up to do something. I'm gonna like do actions. TPR is basically actions. You're gonna say stand up, you're gonna say sit down, you're gonna do some hand signals. You need to do something, you need to have an action associated with the words that you teach. And we're also saying that TPR is when you do an action that corresponds to a word, which is what I just said. TPR can be used to present a lesson. We have done lesson methodology and we've talked about presentation. If you're going to teach the word fish, instead of just whipping out the flashcard and say fish, you can start by, doing the action and asking the kids, what is this? What is this? What is this? And you just get them guessing. If you're going to teach cat, you can ask them. You can use TPR to present your lesson. You can also use TPR to reaffirm what you teach. So after you teach fish and they can see the flashcard and say fish, you can kind of put the flashcard aside and just ask the kids, okay, kids, what is this? Everybody stand up, let's do it together. And everybody's gonna do the sign, they're gonna say fish. Everybody's gonna do the sign, they're gonna say fly. Everybody's gonna do it together with you, they're gonna say tiger. So basically, TPR, it's a way to solicit action from the kids, make the lesson interesting, get them moving and active in your class. TPR can be used to reaffirm what you teach, and it can also be used as a fun activity. So sometimes what I do is when I finish teaching, when I teach all three words, for instance, we're teaching something like fly, you know, or stump, we're gonna go around a circle. And then we do stamp, 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 stamp. Then we do jump, 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 jump. We do run, run, run. It's all TPR. So you can use TPR as a fun activity. TPR is something that can be used in many ways. And you can also use TPR with chants. That run, 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 it's a chant, but that's not an action. So when you do run, 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 jump, jump, you do the action with it, you can use TPR with chants. We're going to talk about chants very soon. Now, let's talk about some guidelines you need to consider when you are actually trying to use TPR, because there are some cases, there are some situations where you try to do TPRs and the students might not go with you, probably because of how you're using your TPR. So, first of all, you need to keep it simple, as simple as possible. Don't do complicated TPR. Don't do TPRs that have like different levels to it. You need to do, no, just as much as possible, just keep it simple. Just if this is cat, just say this is cat. Don't do, like just keep it simple. TPR should be very simple. Now, research and find commonly used TPRs. That is very important. What if I showed up to class one day and then I did something you know, like this? And the kids all think, oh, that's a dog. And I tell the kids that's a kangaroo. What do you think is going to be the reaction to that particular thing? So you need to, there are a whole lot of them. If you're a beginner teacher, you're starting off teaching yourself, and you don't know some of the commonly used ones, you can kind of research and find out some of them, like cat, like dog, like rabbit, like fish, like tiger, lion. You need to kind of do a little bit of research and find out some of the simple and commonly used ones. You also shouldn't hesitate to make your own. There are instances where I've had to make my own TBR because I didn't know, not necessarily that I didn't know, but they weren't commonly used ones, and they were TPRs, like they were complicated words that I need to use a TPR to demonstrate and all that. So in situations like that, you can kind of make your own. Okay, you can kind of make your own for those. Something like louder, I mean, this is listen. You can say listen is this, but then how do you say louder? Loud, just find ways. And then what's important when you try to make your own TPR is that you need to make sure you keep it consistent, right? Don't say today this is fish and then tomorrow you come and say this is fish. If you're saying this is fish every day, you need to say this is fish. So it's very important that you keep your TPR consistent. Now, use TPRs whenever it's possible. When teaching young learners, you need to, whatever situation, whatever opportunity you get, you need to use a TPR. Okay, like stand up, like sit down, like let's run. Okay, everybody come, like you do the action, come. Okay, guys, go back. You need to do the action, go back. Whenever TPRs they could be in very simple form. The teacher can overlook something like go back and just say, okay, everybody go back without doing the action. But then for students who are learning the language, that's not native to them, the slightest things you do can go a really long way to impact how they remember certain things. So, okay, everybody go back. Okay, everybody come. Everybody stand up. Let's do it again, again. Let's do it again, again, again. Again, over and over. Especially one of the situations in which TPRs are really important is for passive things you want to teach the kids. Maybe it's not part of the lesson for the day. It's not part of the content you're teaching for the day. But then they are like classroom language kind of thing. They're like passing words and sentences. It's good to use TPRs. Maybe you're not teaching go back, but then you telling every kid to go back. Okay, all right, let's all go back. Then you're doing the TPR with it. So they look at the TPR and then they form connections in their mind. So TPRs are really important. Okay, everybody, let's go wash our hands. Let's go wash our hands. That kind of helps with retention. Now, putting TPRs aside, another way of teaching interactively is the use of games. Everyone will agree with me, games are really important in the classroom, and you need to play games. I mean, if you're teaching young learners and you're not playing games, I don't know what you're doing in the classroom. You need to play games. So young learners, when they come to school, your students, their idea, their line of thought, it's not necessarily, oh, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna learn something, I'm gonna become great. Then there's a passive side of that, there's that, but then that's not mainly what they're thinking. Even when you come to the class to teach, they're not thinking, this is English is so important, I need to learn English because I want to travel, go outside and meet for it. That's not necessarily how they're thinking. They're there because they're in their mind, they want to have fun, they want to do something with this new language, and that is very interesting. So they don't focus on memorizing. Their idea is not, I want to memorize these words. I want to be able to remember these. That's not what they want. They are rather all about experiences. Oh, the English teacher is here. Oh, Teacher William is here. Teacher William. And they want the experience. Oh, cat, that's cat. They want the experience. So what you can do to like build up on the experience, make it very memorable, is the use of games. Kids like games, use games in your lesson. So we are also saying that the experience that is connected to the words, makes it easy to remember. It's not necessarily the words alone that you're teaching, but then the experience that you connect to learning those words. I will tell you that in learning Chinese, sometimes what makes me remember certain words are the experiences that happened when I learned those words. For instance, I've learned some words in a way that I'm trying to express something and I'm not getting it, and someone tells me in Chinese and it's fun and everyone is laughing, and then that makes it easy to remember. That sometimes I say a word wrongly, and then that correction and explanation, so it's the experiences, sometimes the experiences that come with it. That's why TPRs and chants and this whole idea of interactive teaching it's really important. So if you're gonna play games, you need to have sort of a guideline. You need to have there are ways you can play. So there are ways you can play games that it will be really effective. And a simple rule of thumb is that students know nothing. Just keep this in mind. Whatever game you're gonna play, unless you've played it 100 times and they know the procedure, when you're gonna play a game, you need to keep in mind that your students, they know nothing. Don't assume that they know. Don't even start thinking that, oh, guys, we're gonna play a game. One student come, this student come. Okay, this is how to play the game. Let's go. No, assume they know nothing. So explain the game the best way you can. I'm saying what I mean is, even before you start to play the game, even before you start to call out kids, you can say, hey guys, we are going to play a game, okay? Now this game, listen to how the game is played, okay? I'm going to take this ball. Explanations also should be simple. I'm going to take this ball, and I'll throw it to you, and you throw it back to me. Explanation, simple. assume they know nothing. When you're going to play games, you need to set some rules. For instance, okay, when you stand up, don't move. Don't move forward. Just stand in front of your chair. Rules before you start the game. That's really important because kids tend to be rowdy. They can tend to go overboard and do whatever they want. So set clear rules. The boundaries for playing the games, you need to make that clear before you play a game. Now model the game. If you want the kid to throw the ball into the basket, teacher, you first. You first take the ball, throw it into the basket. Let everybody see. Okay, everybody look at me. This is how we're going to play the game. You will jump from here and you say fish. And you jump to the next one, you say dog. You jump to the next one, you be the first person to play the game. Model the game. Teacher, you need to model the game and let the students know how the game is played. Don't just, okay, we're gonna play a game. We're gonna use these hoops and then you call a student. Nobody has seen the game played before. So you show them how it's played. And be progressive when you're playing the game. Sometimes the game requires certain different levels of actions. In such situations, you need to make sure it's progressive. So a simple example is maybe you need two students to run and then put a ball in a basket. The first thing you need to do is you alone as the teacher, you're going to play that game alone. You're going to take the ball, you're going to run and put it in the basket. Let them see there's running and put it in the basket. That's step one. Then you call another student to play the game alone. They run, they put it in there. Not everyone is going to play. Good. One, two students, fine. They know there's run and put it in the basket. Then the next level, you and another student, you're going to say, okay, now let's compete. Then you're going to run and then you say, who's first? You're going to go put it in the basket. That way, two of you don't just jump to two students. You play with another student first. Then next, you're going to step out and watch two students. Or you could even, you and two other students, let them, and then three of you play together. And then you step out. And then those two students, they play alone. So it has to be progressive. It has to go from stage to stage, especially when it's games that are a little complex. Whenever you're playing games, remember we talked about class demographics and you have the top 20 because those students are those who understand the things you want to do very quickly and much easily. You need to start your games with those students because they can help you model the game quickly. If you call a child who is slow to kind of explain, it's going to be a little messy for you. So during the progressive explanation of your game and the modeling, you want to use the good students. Okay? I know that maybe Messi is the best student. I'm going to call Messi first. Mercy, let's go. Then we play together. She's good at it. All the students will see, and then they can follow. Don't waste time setting up the game. There are instances where we're trying to play a game with hoops and we spend 5 minutes putting down the hoops. And hey, what's this? Just set up the game quickly and go off to playing it. Else, you're going to lose the students. Finally, you need to talk through setting up the game. Okay, as much as you don't need to waste time, you need to talk through setting up the game. For instance, if I'm going to play down 5 hoops, I'm going to put down 1, then I'm saying a 1, 2, and then they will just join in and start counting with me. 3, 4, 5. While setting up the game, you need to talk through it quickly, but also talk through it. Let the students know what it is you're doing, So it helps. It can also go a long way to let them know certain classroom language, sentences. Now, finally, let's just talk about teaching with resources. Flashcards, they're commonly used. You can use flashcards to play games. And when you're teaching for interactive teaching, sometimes a flashcard it's a visual representation of what you're teaching. It's something you can use to solicit curiosity, just get attention and all that. When you're holding the flashcard behind you and they don't know what it is, it's all a part of interactive teaching. You can use PPT. Sometimes there are PPTs where when you play the animation, one item comes at a time and they need to guess. So all that you can use for interactive teaching. There are many websites, there are many sources for PPTs that are interactive for teaching students. The next is videos. Our videos are so important, especially for young learners. There are videos from sources like Super Simple, like sources like maybe Sing Sing. There are many sources of videos that you can use. Ping Fong, they all provide a whole lot of videos that you can use for teaching kids, especially during your warmer stage, especially for doing things like presentation, especially when you're teaching kids who are about 2 to 3 year olds. They they're not mature yet. Okay, and you can do so many flashcards. So sometimes songs that have clear and distinct words, such videos are really good. Now you can also use a whole lot of custom made materials. You don't need to hesitate in making your own things for teaching your lesson. Some of the best resources are the ones you make yourself. If you need a cardboard, if you need a monster where the kids throw a ball to feed it, and you can always find a cardboard. Your school usually has those. You cut it out. You just make your own. Be innovative sometimes and make your own teaching materials. There are a few do's and don'ts when it comes to teaching with flashcards. For instance, flashcards must be visible in size and clarity. Don't use faded flashcards. If they're old, just make new ones. If your flashcards are too small, make bigger ones, especially for larger size classes where there's 18 to 25 to 30 kids. Make sure you have bigger flashcards that all the students can see clearly. Flashcards must also represent what you're teaching. I can tell you enough how important these are. And there are situations where we've had to teach something and you look at the flashcard and it doesn't really help explain or present what you're trying to teach. And even if you finish teaching the flashcard with the flashcard, it's difficult to transform that into real life because it's just make sure your whatever is on the flashcard that's represent exactly what you're trying to teach, and it explains easily and clearly what you're trying to teach. Now, flashcards should not replace reality. What this means is that as a teacher, you need to understand the flashcards, it just aids your teaching. The flashcard, you're not teaching flashcards, you're teaching words. So, what I like to do is that when I finish teaching the words, the ones that are in the classroom, I put all the flashcards away and then we go around the classroom. We try to point to stuff. We try to figure things out. So for instance, if you're teaching even something like a sentence, maybe play with. And there's a flashcard that with something on it that shows play with. I don't know how well you would explain play with a flashcard, but maybe there's some action. But then if you limit it to the flashcard alone, they go home thinking play with is just some picture. But then when you put the flashcard aside and then you go around taking their teddy bear and you say, play with the teddy bear, and you take a toy, play with the toy, and you take a ball, play with the ball. Make it practical. That's the whole idea. Don't limit your teaching just to the flashcards. They aid you, but don't limit everything to the flashcard. Flashcards can be used for your PPP section. Remember, presentation, practice, and production. You can use flashcards to present your lesson. You can use flashcards to practice playing flashcard games. You can use flashcards for production. After you finish your lesson and you want to test them to see if they get it, you can pull out the flashcard and say, what is this? It's also good. Now, sometimes we need certain flashcards and they are not available in the school or they are not available where we're teaching. In such situations, if if it's urgent, you can kind of make your own flashcards. Now what you need to do, just a few simple steps. You go to the internet, you search for the appropriate picture. Remember, we have said that it has to be clear, it has to represent exactly what you're teaching. So when you are searching your flashcard on Google, there's tons of them. Another website you can use is freepik.com, freepik.com. You can go there, look for look for even a picture. It doesn't necessarily need to be a flashcard kind of PDF format. It could be even a simple picture. So search the internet. Your school should probably have a printer. If they don't, I'm sorry about that. You need to print it out. I'm sure you can find a way to print it out. You need to put the printout in a lamination film to because the paper, they can't really do anything with the paper unless you want to mess it up and make another one another time. You need to laminate it, and in laminating your printouts, you need a lamination film. You just ask your school, they probably have some. Put the paper in between the film. You need to turn on the lamination machine, let it heat up. It takes a while, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. It heats up and the green light turns on. Then you put the lamination film through the lamination film that has the paper in it. There's usually an arrow that points in the direction which you should put the paper. So you just feed the paper in and then it comes out through the other side. Flashcard ready. Chants are another way you can use for your students to actually learn and remember things. It's another interactive way to teach. With chants, unlike TPR actually actions, chants are more vocal. And with chants, it's like you say the word, the audio, and you back it up with your TPR. So for instance, you can say fish, 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 fish. That rhythm, that that kind of rhythm to it makes it like a chant, when people chant something. So you can match around the classroom and say jump, 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 run, 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 hop, hop, hop. It becomes like a chant, something. So you can kind of make your own and come up with creative ways to do this.